Welcome, everybody, to the Super Connector, where we talk about all things related to the world of influence. Everything from sales to leadership, entrepreneurship, personal branding, and my personal favorite, how to win friends and influence people. Today, we have a special guest, Nick Elia. Nick is the CEO of Win at Sales, which is a done-for-you sales agency, former specialist at Traffic and Funnels, and a very active member in the remote sales community. Nick, I'm so glad that you came on this podcast. How are you doing?
Yeah, man, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I'm doing good. Traveled yesterday for like 12 hours and got home super late, but I'm feeling okay.
Yeah, I actually have a question about that coming up.
Yeah.
But first of all, I would like you to just explain to me in the audience, what exactly is it that you do?
So currently I'm the CEO of Win at Sales. We're a done-for-you sales agency primarily. We also do some recruiting services and some consulting services on a case-by-case basis, but we manage 10 sales teams, all in the coaching and consulting space. One of our teams is an agency. Our team has 5-6 coaches, 2 recruiters, and an operations person. That's our staff. But yeah, we manage 10 sales teams, 50-60 sales reps across all of the teams, $2 to $3 million per month in revenue combined of all of those teams. So we're coming up on 2 years in business. We started kind of competing with Cole Gordon in the sales team accelerator program. We were just doing consulting. We pivoted and started doing the done for you management in September 2023. So as a company, we've been around 2 years, but this like iteration of the offer, we're at like 21 months, and this September will be 2 years doing the done for you management.
That's impressive. And you're a personal friend of Cole Gordon's, aren't you?
Personal friend. We've never like hung out in person, but Cole was at Traffic and Funnels 2 weeks before I started there. He left. I'm very connected with like a lot of people on his team and sales reps and account managers and his old sales manager. And I think just he came from the TNF world. A lot of people on his team came from the TNF world. I came from the TNF world. So it's a pretty tight knit, small little bubble, I would say.
Yeah, I've heard quite a lot about Traffic and Funnels from numerous people. When I first came into the remote sales community, which was only 5 months ago, and I started my podcast only 4 months ago, I hadn't heard of it. But I've been filled in on on the history of the last 7 years of high ticket sales, and it's very interesting. A lot of controversy as well at the same time.
Yeah, I think like this industry really started with like ClickFunnels and Sam Ovens with consulting.com. Obviously Sam Ovens is doing school now. He sold consulting.com a couple of years ago, but it was like Sam Ovens was like the big dog in the space from like 2015 to 2018. Traffic and Funnels, the Traffic and Funnels guys were his client. Anybody who was big in the space came through came through consulting.com. Then TNF was kind of the big dog, but also there were some other big dogs, right? Like Russell Brunson had ClickFunnels Inner Circle. There was a guy named Russ Ruffino. There was Dan Henry. There was like a lot of people in like coaches. And then Cole started his business after leaving TNF, mostly just as a sales trainer, then as a sales team consultant. And like now I think with what Cole is doing with 8-Figure Boardroom and Sales Team Accelerator, he's really like the big dog for anybody who's doing anything decent, I think, in like the coaches space. There's a lot of B players, C players, D players, but I think he's the top dog.
Yeah. And, coming into the high ticket space, one of the names that I heard repeatedly is Cole Gordon. Yeah. And you had just explained, I believe I read some of your posts. One thing I noticed is that you're very active with your, I would call it personal branding. Even though they're just posts and comments, I still consider it to be a strong part of personal branding.
Bro, I got a lot of shit to say. I got a lot of shit to say. I'm just kidding.
That's good. That's good.
Yeah.
What was this event like that I believe you just came back from?
Man, It was really, really, really good. So one of my clients, Razvan Parashiv, with Grow Channels, he teaches people YouTube automation. We run his outbound setting team. We've been running it for about a year and a half now. He's an 8-figure boardroom, and or 8-figure boardroom is Cole's higher level mastermind. So he does like 3 events a year. If you're an 8-figure boardroom, you can come, you can bring someone who's on your team to the event. So
Yeah.
For me, right, free event in Cabo, company paid for the flight and the hotel. I was in a room of 100 business owners that are ideal clients for my sales agency. That's why I wanted to go. And I did a lot of networking and booked a lot of sales calls, and we're 100% going to land some clients just from being at that event. But dude, it was really good. They didn't overdo it with the content. There was 6 sessions of content. There was multiple like receptions and parties, a very high value room of people, many people doing 7 figures a month. I would say there was probably nobody in there doing less than 6 figures a month in their business. So it was just a very high value room of people who are solving high value problems, and just good people, both in business and just being a human, you know?
Yeah. Because
And of course, it was at an all-inclusive resort in Cabo, which was a freaking awesome place to do an event.
Yeah, that's not too bad. I'd say that's a perk, right?
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Cabo, I know.
Yes.
Cabo is the one word that you hear for ritzy vacations, so it sounds pretty fancy.
Yes. That was my 2nd time there. It's a fun vacation, right? Like, if you're looking for culture and nature and all that, Cabo's not the place. If you're looking to drink tequila in the pool and sit around and get fat and have fun and meet some cool people and laugh a lot, Cabo's a great place to do that.
Awesome. Now, one reason that I started this podcast was to talk about networking, and also so that I could network more and learn how to really connect with people by asking really good questions. And I have learned a tremendous amount through the people that I have spoken to on camera, on this podcast, and also off camera. The amount that I have learned coming from working on oil pipelines as a construction laborer, switching over to sales, that's a very, very big change.
Yeah.
But what I have noticed most of all is that networking has allowed me to learn far more than reading a book a week. How do you find, even at your level, that networking at events like these benefits you?
Dude, I mean, especially at events like these, right? Like, everybody in that room has a fairly significant result, right, tied to them. Again, I don't think there was one person in that room who owned a business that was doing less than $1 million this year, if not $1 million a month. So it's like, being surrounded by people that have results like that, obviously you're going to learn something new. It's just as simple as that. And it's like, whether it's from a management perspective or a leadership perspective or a marketing perspective or sales perspective or just a tactical perspective or an operational perspective, like, you're gonna learn a lot around those people. And then also, right, like, you're around a high value room of people like that, like, opportunities are going to present themselves.
Yeah.
So as long as you can be social and be cool and have fun and not be attached to getting anything out of an event like that, but just being there to be there in the moment and enjoy it and see what happens, and have a good time, like, you're going to meet good connections, you're going to learn something, and you're going to have opportunities come across your plate.
Yeah. And for everybody watching this, and for both of us, I'm sure we've all heard, the 5 people that you surround yourself around the most, you eventually become them because their behaviors rub off on you. So if you're around 100 of them, I think you're doing pretty well. And
100%.
one thing, yeah.
And I also think on top of that, right, like, events, my business partner Chris Moore likes to say this, like, events are just momentum builders, right? Like, everybody's excited afterwards, you get like a rush of adrenaline, and like, you have boosted energy and a lot of very clear action items that you can bang out over the next 2, 3, 4 weeks, which hopefully then that momentum will compound by focusing on the action items. But it's an inspirational place to be, where you also get a boost in energy, and that helps you build momentum off of the back of events like that.
Yeah. And one concept that I've always come across repeatedly, joining the world of business and the world of sales, is the concept of value. What is value? Now, coming in and networking with people, I didn't understand what value I had to offer, and people were very willing to teach me. But what I experienced, and I'm sure you do experience yourself, is that it's often more fulfilling to offer value and benefit the lives of other people, because it just feels very good to contribute like that.
Sure.
Now, when I started, I thought, well, I have to kind of snatch value out of thin air because I don't have experience. And so what I repeatedly did is I just repeated what I had learned from other people that had educated me, or from books that I had read, so I could possibly add some type of value to the lives of other people. What type of value do you feel that you provide the most, and how fulfilling do you find it when you're able to provide that type of value in scenarios like that, online and offline?
Sure. I mean, I think, dude, I'm the CEO of an agency running 10 sales teams doing $2 to $3 million a month. So obviously when it comes to sales management, and sales and recruiting and leadership, I have a lot of value to add there, right? Like just this weekend, get in a conversation with someone, ask them about their sales team, ask them about their goals, help them map out a plan to get there. Like that happened often for me this past week, but a lot around that stuff: sales management, leadership, recruiting. When I was a setter, I averaged $250,000 in sales every single month for 2 years straight. So I think value ultimately comes from, again, results, right? Results. You get results, people will automatically perceive you as value and be like, how did you get there? Teach me about it, right? So, but those 4 things that I mentioned, I think are really my bread and butter, and where I can advise the most and help people the most.
And I'm sure that's something that you find very fulfilling on a day-to-day basis in your job, because you're constantly leading people. You know, a lot about, and that's something I really like to talk about on this channel, is about leadership as well. Now, just this morning, I sent you a text, and what happened is that I was drinking my coffee, and as soon as the caffeine hits me, all of a sudden it's like my ambition and my momentum comes. And yes, it is the caffeine, but it is a part of my character and my personality.
Funny how that works.
Yeah, exactly. It helps, right? And so I was thinking today about the ebb and flow of ambition and how it relates to motivation. So how do you find that ambition plays a part in what you do in your career?
I mean, dude, I think ambition starts with like clarity of what you want and why that's meaningful to you. You know, like if I'm going to use a graphic example here, and I'll make a more G-rated example too. If a crackhead really wants to smoke crack today, that's going to be one of the most ambitious motherfuckers you come across. He's going to figure it out. Why? Because he knows exactly what he wants, and he really, 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 really wants it. Now, whether there's logical reasoning and whether that's healthy, different question. But think about even just like a 10-year-old kid that wants to buy a new video game. That dude's going to have lemonade stands. He's going to mow lawns. He's going to shovel driveways because he's clear on what he wants. And he really, 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 really wants it. So I think like, and I'm clear on where I want to bring the business. I'm clear on what that's going to do for me personally. I'm clear on what that's going to do for me financially. I'm clear on what that's going to do for me personally, you know, and it's like, I love to play this game. I love the game of business. I love the game of sales. I love seeing big numbers get bigger. So I think it's both of those things. I know what I want, and I just really enjoy the day-to-day of being able to get there. And I think those two things combined are what any ambitious person has.
Yeah. And did you always believe that you would end up in the position that you're in right now, in the career that you're in?
Oh, dude, hell no. I smoked weed every day when I was 14 years old to when I was 24 years old. Like, I was an idiot. I wasn't doing shit with my life. Like, I moved to Thailand and I was an English teacher in Thailand for 2.5 years and a scuba diver, partying on an island in Southeast Asia, right? Like, so like it took me a while to kind of figure out what I want and, actually get into an environment that challenged me and I could show up every day and like see growth actually happen. But I don't think I had, one, clarity in my vision, or two, like the love for the game until I really, honestly, like traffic and funnels. That's the best thing that it did for me.
Yeah.
And I never really saw, like, once you get a taste of the actual growth, right? And you build some momentum, the hardest step is like the first job, the first 100K in sales, the first million in sales, the first 100K a year in take home. But once you actually get into an environment and into a rhythm of where you start seeing those metrics hit, it's very natural to want more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So that momentum builds the ambition, and the ambition builds the momentum, and it just becomes this cycle of progression.
Yeah,
I like it.
I think so, right? And it's like, dude, what's the hardest part of getting a train to move? Well, like, you put the most energy into getting it going. But once a train is going 60 miles an hour, it's really, 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 really hard to stop that thing. And it's easy to keep it going.
Yeah. Now, what was it like transitioning from a sales professional to a sales coach?
So dude, my first sales job was 2015. I sold copiers. And even before that, I ran like a street team in a promotions company in college, and we would book concerts and sell tickets and promote the shows and all of that stuff, like manage the merch tables, things like that. So I don't know. I've always just had a proclivity for business. I went to business school, Kelly School of Business at Indiana University. Always liked business. Sold weed in high school, sold weed in college. And my first okay, and then 2018, I started a marketing agency. I was really good at getting clients, but I hated the fulfillment side of things. So that's why I just got a sales gig at TNF instead of trying to do the agency, because the only thing I liked about what I was doing was sales. So that's where I kind of got started in like high ticket sales, but I had been doing it for like I don't know, not a decade before there, but at least 6 to 8 years between all of the different things that I was doing. And with TF, man, I was the best setter. Josh Johnson was my mentor and still does kind of mentor me through things today. I broke all of his records as a setter because he moved into the setter management role. Then he took over multiple setting teams. And then I was kind of the team lead for TNF and managing the day-to-day of that team. So it was just a natural progression. And then I left TNF September 2021, started this business with David Melman in June 2022. And at that point, I was in one of the bigger companies in the space that like had a well-oiled sales team at the peak. And I just lived it day to day for 2 years. And I know that's not a long time, but like doing $250,000 a month for 24 months straight in a 2-year period, like you get a lot of depth of knowledge from that, especially in the environment that I was in. Right. So there's people in the space that don't even do $250,000 in sales a year. Right. I did that every month for 24 months straight. So obviously I learned a lot in that process and got a lot of reps in and saw a lot of good stuff happen and a lot of bad stuff happen and all that. So, It was just a natural progression, man. You know, most high level producers, if they want to grow, most of them like they get burnt out on the phones and they want to move into something that's not on the phones, but still involved with sales, which is typically leadership and developing people.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's quite easy to get burnt out regardless of whether you're a high performer or not, I think.
Sure.
However, the motivation does push you through. And I think it's a natural step to move forward into a leadership position.
Yeah. I think so. Burnout's funny. Dude, I've burnt out a lot in my career. I really have. And I actually did a workshop on this a couple months ago for the reps that are on the teams that we manage. And I think it's possible to avoid burnout because I haven't burnt out for a long time now because I was aware of what caused my burnout. And I think it's four things. It is lack of clarity in your vision and belief that you are doing the things day to day that's going to get you to that goal. Most people who burn out, you ask them what they want, they don't know. Well, no wonder you're burned out, right? Like you don't know what you want.
Yeah.
And you're waking up every day working your ass off and you don't know where it's leading you. And you know, or on the flip side, they do know what they want, right? I want financial freedom. I want time freedom, but I'm trapped in a 9-to-5 job where I have to go drive to the office 2 hours round trip both ways and sit in this office that's never going to get me to where I want. Those two things lead to burnout more often than not.
Yeah.
Right. I think the second thing that leads to burnout is health. Like, are you healthy? Are you sleeping good? Are you eating good? Are you working out? Are you drinking water? And if you're not, like, you're going to feel that. That's going to catch up to you. The third thing is not having like short-term things on your calendar to look forward to. Cigar night with the boys on a Thursday, date night with the girlfriend on a Tuesday, 3-day weekend next month, you know, with the family to go stay at a cabin, 1-week vacation in September to go to Cabo, all inclusive. Like if you don't have that stuff planned, those little lights at the end of the tunnel planned, like it's hard to stay motivated in the day to day. I think that's the third thing that causes it. And then the fourth thing is like, have you just taken a break lately? Like an actual unplugged break, like a sleep-in day on a Wednesday or a Saturday without a million chores to do. Obviously, we're human and we need those, but most people think when they're burnt out, they need a break or a vacation. I look at number 1 and 2 first. Vision, alignment in the day-to-day with the vision. And then the second thing being just, are you healthy?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. That was a very extensive answer. It was great.
Yeah.
And clarity of vision is the one thing you say that continues to resonate with me. But short-term goals and at least looking forward to something that I'm doing at the end of the week in order to have recreation, you know, because that is important for mental health as well. And I think mental health is probably the most important. And of course, exercise is a huge part of that as well. So I was just staying in a place here in Medellin, Colombia with 5 other people. And often they would go on walks, multiple walks throughout the day. And I could just tell that those simple walks made a huge impact on their health. They were working all day and they needed to do something. And it's actually, I think it's very good to take the energy from the brain down into the body to get rid of that stress and anxiety and pressure that we can tend to put on ourselves when we're highly ambitious or motivated people. Maybe perfectionists.
And I think, dude, along the lines of the vision thing, like it's not just to set it and forget it, right? Like you need to constantly be looking at it and reworking it, and the goalposts change and the details change a little bit, right? So the mistake I see people make is they work on their vision once a year. When is that? At the end of the year, the beginning of the year, right? That's usually the only time they look at it, think about it, rework it, refresh it at all, right? So like my advice to people who do want to get clear on their vision is like, make it a habit, dude. It needs to be like a monthly thing or a bi-weekly thing that you look at it, you rework it, you refresh it, you realign it to what you're doing. With the breaks and the like walking outside, dude, it is so easy to get caught up on your computer in this space. You got 9 hours of calls on your computer. You got admin work to do. Your Slack is blowing up for 24 hours at a time. It's so easy to like, one, not take care of that health and just step away from the computer for half a day. And I think James Lawrence made a post about this a couple weeks ago. He's like, I have 2 half days every day. In the middle of my day, I take like a 2 to 3 hour break. I go do jujitsu, I go on a walk, I do whatever. And then I come back, and that second half of that day is so much more productive than if I would have just powered through 9 hours. And then with the recreation thing, man, your identity cannot just fucking be being a high ticket closer or being a sales rep. Because if your identity is only work, when you have a bad day at work, which is inevitably going to happen multiple times a month, and you're going to have bad weeks at work, you're going to have bad months at work. When you have a bad day at work, it shouldn't be a bad day overall.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge mistake. And the times that I've gotten burnt out all fell into those categories that we've kind of been talking about for the past 5-10 minutes here.
Yeah. In the online space on Facebook specifically, I mean, of course on LinkedIn, but I think specifically on Facebook, how important do you believe personal branding is these days? Because it seems to be more and more important.
I think it's super important, dude. I made a post last week to fill a role that we have at Win It Sales, and I literally got like 60 people to hit me up, and I booked 15 interviews with extremely high quality candidates, right? And I don't think if I would have just been some random jamoke on the internet, I would have been able to get that level of attention. So I also think, dude, like if Win It Sales went out of business tomorrow and I said, hey, I'm looking for a sales job or a sales management position, I'd probably have 50 offers in my inbox within the next week. So I think it's super important. And I think it's super important, not even just in the space and on Facebook, but just like in general, in business, like you gotta have a good reputation and people who gotta know who you are, and life gets a lot easier when that happens.
Yeah. And just simply having a short video of yourself will prove that you are a good speaker, that you're confident, that you know how to relate to people, that you're social, and that alone will put you ahead of 90% of candidates in any type of position. That is my own personal belief. And also another thing, which another guest on my podcast had said, Joel Elster, he said, if I'm looking for a closer to recruit and you don't have a personal brand but you're the best closer in the world, I don't know who you are. How can I even find you? Right. So it's just so important for us to put out something of ourselves. And even these days, 30-second shorts are enough. And to be honest, what I find interesting these days is that people are actually more interested in I would say 0 to hero stories, or people in the process of developing their craft, as opposed to people that are experts already, because I think they identify more with it.
For sure.
Now, yeah.
I think to kind of just riff off that a little bit, like, man, I think reputation and personal brand also is just a lot easier to develop when you actually have results and experience, and you put your head down and shut the fuck up and work your ass off for 12 to 24 months and you make a name for yourself, right? Like, I think, dude, connecting with people and having conversations with people and like all of that stuff is great. But dude, you want to know what gets people to pay attention to me? I did $250,000 a month in sales for 2 years straight. Who else in the space can say that? As a setter, as an appointment setter, who can say that? Who could say I manage 10 sales teams with 50 to 60 sales reps that are doing $2 to $3 million a month? There are other people, right? But like not a lot. So just that, like having those results has compounded, I guess, my personal brand, which if I think I have a small one in this little bubble of internet marketing. It's not like I'm some big guru, but like I do have a small one. It has ultimately stemmed from results. Also, when I have those results and experience and I'm living it day to day, it's so easy for me to just riff off valuable content that's actually valuable.
Yeah.
Like my profile is filled with a bunch of value posts. And anytime I have a conversation with someone, I can actually give them valuable advice and insight and action items of their situation, which again has stemmed from the experience and the results that I have. So the best way, in my opinion, is to get the fuck out there and go to work and put your head down and get good results. That is how you will build a personal brand that's worth an infinite amount of money.
Yeah. Now, there are a lot of people that come to this podcast that are just starting out, that aren't even able to find a position. Sometimes they've been in sales for 10 years, but when they switch to high ticket, they don't know how to even, and they could be incredible sales professionals, but they can't even find their way into a job. What advice would you have for people just starting out in the high ticket space, learning how to network and find opportunities for themselves?
I think the first thing you got to do is learn how to identify legitimate businesses that have legitimate roles, right? If you can identify the legitimate businesses that have the legitimate roles, then you can find people that are connected in those organizations, and you actually have a list of people that you can reach out to and start talking to and try and get a foot in the door when they have an open position. Then once you get into a legitimate business with a legitimate role, put your head down and shut the fuck up and work for an extended period of time, right? But like, it's not that hard to like go out and identify people who are legit in the space. James Lawrence has like a whatever $300 course where he teaches you how to vet and ask the right questions. But also just like, man, go when you see someone hitting you with ads for like a coaching program or an agency or a consulting business, like take note of that. Click on that ad. Then you'll start getting hit with more. And anyone who's running ads consistently is probably doing $1 million plus a year, right? If not multiple $1 million a year. But it starts with identifying those businesses. Then once you identify those businesses, it shouldn't be that hard to find people that work for those organizations. You can go find them on Instagram, see who they follow. They probably follow somebody who works for them, or you could easily just find those people on Facebook if you did some searches. And then the last thing is like, once you get into that role and you know it's a legitimate business, there are people making 4, 5, 6, 8, 12, 15 grand a month. Even 6K a month consistently in this space is better than 7K a month in a 9 to 5 that you have to drive to, right?
Oh yeah.
So stop chasing this like 10K elusive unicorn. Find a good company where you can consistently make 5, 6K and stay there, shut the fuck up, and actually bring value to that business and get better and make that business better and break the glass ceilings in that business by working hard and being smart and reiterating. And then ultimately, again, you'll get to the point where like the biggest names in the space have Joel Elster, the biggest person brand, Michael Delnevy, James Lawrence, JD Daly. All of those guys have incredible results in sales.
Mhm.
No wonder it's easy for them to build a personal brand. They have the experience and the results, but they got that experience and results and they grinded in those freaking roles. So I think a better question for me to answer is like what not to do when it comes to like networking and building it. What not to do is be the pickiest, choosiest motherfucker about every single role, right? And what not to do is just connect with every single person that you find in every single sales group and try and get on a 15-minute coffee chat with them. That's what you don't do. Go identify a list of actual high quality people, target that. And then once you can get into something that's like a 7.5, 8 out of 10 role, stay in that fucking role and ride the ups and downs, right? Because they're naturally going to be there, and build your brand through actual hard work, experience, and results in the right role. But like, don't search for the perfect thing. Don't search for the 10 out of 10 unicorn role for your first role. Like, just find something that's solid and you can actually get into for 9, 12, 15 months.
Yeah.
I think that, to me, if I was starting over again, that's how I would do it. And I know there's a big wave of like, be on multiple offers. I think if you're just starting off, you don't have the capacity for that.
Yeah.
So like, find a 7.5, 8 out of 10 role through the process that I just mentioned, and put your head down for 12 months and work your ass off, and don't fucking offer hopper. You could still network. You could still like have a plan B, but like, you gotta commit to 12 months of just work, even if it's not the perfect environment. And that will get you results, which will compound your personal brand.
Mhm.
That's what I genuinely believe.
Well, Nick, I'm so glad. This has been a really great conversation. I think that the people watching this podcast are going to learn a heck of a lot. You said many things that no other guest has actually said. A lot of great advice. It's really helped me a lot. I'm really happy to have had this conversation with you. I consider you now to be a part of my inner network of solid people. I don't know if I'll ever be managing a team of, was it 50 to 100 people? Something that you said, 50 to 60?
50, 60. Yeah. 50, 60.
Not too many.
Only
Not too
a
many.
couple dozen.
Yeah, that's right. But it was so great to have you on. And I guess we'll just wrap it up here. It was a good session. And hopefully one time we can do this again. So what I'll do is I'll just wrap it up, push the end to record button. And I always just wave goodbye to the audience.
Thanks, man.
Guys.